The heavy gold band on my finger felt like a shield when Courtney targeted me during the morning briefing. She openly mocked the worn metal in front of the corporate board, calling it cheap junk from a flea market. Everyone in the room looked away, pretending to study their papers while her laughter filled the silence. She had no idea that this single piece of jewelry held the power to destroy her world. My name is Paige, and I have spent 6 years working as a quiet analyst in the operations department. I always arrived early and left exactly on time, blending into the background, so nobody would notice my presence. This invisibility was deliberate because my father always taught me to watch from the shadows until the perfect moment arrived. I wore his old ring every single day as a quiet reminder of that exact promise. Courtney was the 24-year-old daughter of our vice president, Gregory Blake, and she treated the entire office like her personal playground. She received her position through nepotism rather than talent, often making massive financial errors that other people had to fix. Nobody ever corrected her mistakes because her father controlled the promotions and salaries. She assumed her status made her completely untouchable, which made her arrogant behavior even worse during major company presentations. During that specific Monday strategy session, Courtney noticed my hand resting on the table and chose to make me her target. She asked if I obtained the ring from a medieval costume shop, giggling loudly to ensure her father heard the joke. Gregory Blake merely chuckled under his breath, encouraging her cruel behavior, while the rest of the staff stared at their coffee mugs. I simply nodded in response, remaining completely calm under her gaze. The ring was not cheap fashion, but rather a unique token from a man who once controlled vast financial networks. My father, Julian Vance, had given it to me before he chose to disappear from public view years ago. It represented a secret legacy that the current executives could not even begin to comprehend. While Courtney continued her foolish presentation about modern marketing trends, I knew a massive storm was approaching our firm. A legendary billionaire named Carlton Drake was scheduled to arrive at our headquarters later that afternoon for an urgent funding review. He was the most powerful investor in the industry, a man whose decisions could create or destroy entire corporations. Gregory Blake had spent months preparing a desperate pitch to secure the funds of this financial giant. I walked down the main corridor right as the private elevator doors opened to reveal him. Carlton Drake walked with an aura of absolute authority, causing the reception staff to stand up straight in pure panic. As he passed me in the hallway, his sharp eyes suddenly dropped to my hand and he stopped completely dead in his tracks. The atmosphere in the corridor shifted instantly as the wealthy man stared at the gold ring on my finger. He looked shocked, his face turning pale as he studied the unique metal insignia. He looked up at my face and asked where I obtained that specific item in a low, trembling voice. I remained completely steady and told him that my father gave it to me before his disappearance. When I mentioned the name Julian Vance, the billionaire gripped his leather briefcase tightly as memories obviously flooded his mind. I gave him a polite nod and continued walking toward my desk, leaving him frozen in total silence. The executive boardroom was tense as Gregory Blake began his long presentation, using complex business terms to impress our guest. Courtney sat near the front of the room, playing with her phone and looking completely bored by the data. She still believed she was the smartest person in the room, entirely unaware of the chaos that was about to unfold. Carlton Drake sat silently at the end of the table, watching the slides with cold detachment. Suddenly, the wealthy investor raised his hand to stop the presentation mid-sentence, causing Gregory Blake to freeze in confusion. Carlton Drake stood up from his chair and walked slowly across the crowded room until he stopped directly in front of me. The entire staff watched in absolute silence as the powerful man leaned down to speak directly to an ordinary analyst. He asked me once again to confirm the true identity of my father. I looked directly into his eyes and clearly stated that my father was Julian Vance, the original founder of the secret fund. The reaction was immediate as Carlton Drake turned back to face the panicked executives with absolute fury. He announced that the meeting was over and stated that every single business deal with our firm was officially cancelled. Gregory Blake began to stammer, desperately begging for an explanation while his daughter watched in complete horror. The billionaire ignored the frantic pleas of the vice president and walked out of the room, promising to speak with me very soon. The heavy doors slammed shut, leaving the executive team in a state of absolute panic and disarray. Courtney looked at me with wide eyes, her previous arrogance completely vanishing as she realized the gravity of her mistake. The entire corporate hierarchy had just shattered because of the quiet woman they chose to mock. Word of the disaster spread through the office floors like wildfire, turning the quiet bullpen into a storm of anxious whispers. Coworkers who usually ignored my existence suddenly began sending me polite messages and offering to help with my daily tasks. Managers walked past my desk repeatedly, trying to catch a glimpse of the ring that had just ended a multi-million-dollar partnership. I ignored the sudden attention and continued processing my regular operational files. Later that afternoon, Courtney stood inside the glass office of her father, demanding to know why everyone was treating me like royalty. Gregory Blake was visibly sweating while researching old financial records on his computer screen. Discovering the hidden truth about my family legacy, he realized that my father had secretly saved their company from total bankruptcy decades ago through an unrecorded emergency loan. The realization that they insulted the daughter of their true savior terrified him completely. The next day, Carlton Drake returned to the building without any warning, demanding a private audience with me in the main hallway. He explained that my father was the only man he ever respected, a brilliant financier who possessed ultimate power over the markets. The old agreement stated that the family of Julian Vance held total control over the assets of the firm. He looked at me with deep respect, waiting for my final directive regarding the company. I looked down at the gold ring, remembering the advice of my father to only show teeth when the wolves forget who fed them. I requested a full audit of the operations department, ensuring that nepotism and corruption would be permanently wiped from the corporate structure. Gregory Blake and Courtney were removed from their positions within a week, leaving the building with their belongings in simple cardboard boxes. The quiet analyst had finally taken control. This experience taught me that true power does not need to shout, wear luxury labels, or humiliate others to prove its existence. Arrogance will always blind people to the hidden dangers right in front of them, leading to their ultimate downfall. I still wear the old ring every day as I lead the company into a brand new era of honest success. True strength is found in patience, observation, and knowing exactly when to step out of the shadows.